Trevor, what are your thoughts on the John Collins trade?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was my question.
It actually is an interesting trade. I do like it for Utah. It's super buy low. I mean, the one risk, if you had to think of one, would be his contract, but it's not a super risky move because it took literally nothing. It took Rudy Gay.
chips.
Took a bag of chips and a second rounder. And you know, I think John Collins, for whatever reason, has lost a lot of value in the last few years. And I can think of teams that have been tied to him for the past 2 years, 1.5 years, that have been constantly rumored to trade for him. Then all of a sudden, he is traded for, like you said, a bag of chips. Nothing. So it's really interesting what has changed to where his value's next to nothing. It doesn't make sense to me because I see John Collins. Christian, I want to hear more what you believe because you believe in him. I see John Collins as a really athletic, younger piece that has some upside.
I mean, I see John Collins the way I almost see Aaron Gordon. They're both really strong, play the same position, extremely athletic guys. Like that, John Collins, I think, is the type of guy that can fill that role on a team like Aaron Gordon filled on the Nuggets this year. He's solid defensively. He's a vertical lob threat, and he's not that bad of a shooter.
He's not. I
really think that Atlanta just misused the talent that they had on their team.
Sure.
And that is a team that I've always kind of thought, like, they kind of have too many guys. Like, they have too many guys that need playing time.
A lot of forwards.
Exactly. A lot of forward, a lot of redundancy in positions. And it's like, this is what happens when you kind of mistreat your assets. You got to diversify your portfolio.
I like that.
If you're in stocks, you're not investing everything in the housing market. You got to dabble in a little bit of everything. But the Hawks did not have that idea in mind. They were drafting Jalen Johnson. They acquired Sadiq Bey,
Hunter, Bogdan
AJ
Bogdanovic.
Griffin. Like, they just had all these guys that played the same position.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like how the Raptors, they have that same position trying to make it work. Hasn't really worked.
Just throw everything at the wall. Let's see what sticks. And
and with that, they've been rumoring John Collins on the trade block for so many years that they've almost tore down his value.
Yeah.
So another thing with Atlanta, kind of behind the scenes, why this could have been the motivation behind this move, getting John Collins off their books allows them to re-sign Trae Young, Sadiq Bey, DeJounte Murray,
Onyeka Okongwu.
and those guys. So it allows them to re-sign them after next season, I think, or maybe after next season and the next. So it frees them up a little bit. My confusion to trading John Collins now is like, why not wait until he gains a little bit of value in the season? But maybe they don't want to have to roll out with him and know that they're going to trade him because they're looking to win next season, and they don't want to waste a season with a guy that they know that they're not going to trade or not going to have on their roster. So it makes sense for them. For Utah, let's talk about the fit with John Collins next to. Yeah, I mean, think about last year. The lineup they were running a lot was Markkanen at the 3, Olynyk at the 4, and Kessler at the 5. And so that was a super big, starting 5 and 3 guys that are, close to 7 feet tall. And so with Olynyk probably the guy that's going to have to step back. Definitely. I believe he's a free agent.
He's a restricted free agent.
Yeah. So
serviceable big.
I love Kelly Olynyk. I would love for Sacramento to go and get him, talking about my team. But for John Collins to go into that slot, I think that he offers a lot more than Kelly Olynyk would. So that's a no-brainer for me as far as an upgrade for Utah, and a guy that goes along the timeline of Lauri Markkanen.
Awesome. Their timeline is really starting. You see what they're doing and what they're starting to piece together, and it's another of the West is just getting better because John Collins is another great asset that comes from the East, comes to the West. It's part of my propaganda that the West is so much better and so much more talented than the East. You could take a giant deep dive into that, but I'll just stay focused on the Jazz.
Maybe a video idea.
Maybe great video idea. I like that, Trev. Yep. But that front court is actually very talented. Walker Kessler, the sky is the limit for him. We know Markkanen because of being that all-star last year. Now you get John Collins. Big question now is, what are you going to do with the guards? And that's probably not a question you'll answer this season, most likely. Colin Sexton being the starting point guard, which isn't bad, but I think it can absolutely be upgraded as well in the future. But you start to see, okay, this team is actually having pieces where they had success last year. Like, they were in the playoff hunt up until about game 82. I don't think that was a fluke. I see this trade as, hey, we've got a young roster that we think can, maybe they make some playoff appearances and then down the road start to be a serious threat for the NBA Finals.
Go ahead.
Really like what Utah is building right now. Because you have Kessler, you have Laurie, and then you added John Collins, and then also their draft pick this year, Taylor Hendricks. He's nice. He averaged about 15 points per game, 7 rebounds, shot almost 40% from the three-point line. Like, this guy is a hooper as well. And then you also have Ochai Akbaji, who's another small forward, guard.
You've played blackjack with.
Played blackjack with him, Christian.
I kind of wanted to say his name just because, my bachelor party, he just so happened to be at the casino. I sat down at his table, didn't say anything to him, played a couple rounds, and then left because I lost all my money.
Yeah. he had a good rookie year.
Great rookie year. Yeah. And I like him a lot. I think he's he's the classic 3-and-D guy. He's came into the league a little bit older, so he's NBA ready. But yeah, it's like, now Utah, what kind of guards can we get?
Well, yeah, I mean, Jordan Clarkson has a player option for about $14 million. And I'm not too on top of the Utah offseason as far as what guys will come in and out. So I don't know even where he's feeling or what the media is saying about that. If he opts in, that's another guard that you add to your roster that is so solid. And it seems like he enjoyed being in Utah.
I think he does.
He likes the role. He has he's cut out a great spot there. So I could see Jordan coming back. And then you can look at point guards, and try to find a guy because to be honest, I don't think you roll out in the next season starting Colin Sexton. He feels more of a off the bench energy guy, which is awesome for him.
Yeah, and especially because he did come back slow last year, and he's been battling different injuries throughout really his career, it feels like. We'll see what they do in free agency. It might not be extremely active, but it's something, hey, we have a young core, let's develop, because that's how a lot of these successful teams that we've seen, Denver, Milwaukee, Golden State with the Steph years, they developed these young guys. They built a culture. They built a core. And I think they have a lot of promising aspects to have a successful future down the road.
I mean, we were talking earlier before the podcast about where some of these guys are going to land, the bigger names like a Fred VanVleet. If they're looking for a point guard,
wow,
Fred can be a good fit. And he's a little older. He's 29. But that's an option.
I think Fred would be a great fit. The only thing is, now that they've acquired John Collins, their cap space is going down. Which, before the trade, they did have one of the bigger cap spaces going into the free agency.
Where were they? Do you know if they were like top 10 or what? Okay, that's okay.
I don't remember the exact number, but they were in the top 7.
Okay,
so
cool.
They had a lot of money to spend. So it will be interesting to see what other guys. Do they bring in D'Lo?
Ooh.
That's interesting. I don't think that they do. I think they're trying to build similarly to how Sacramento and Denver have done it with, not that D'Lo is a low character type player, but he's a guy that you demands a lot of, I don't know.
I would say he's a low IQ type player.
Okay. Yeah, low IQ and not necessarily the most team guy.
Yeah.
Just in his play style. He's very ISO ball, and I don't think that that's the kind of player that they're looking to build this team with.
And one other thing I want to comment, I love Will Hardy. I love the job that he did at Utah last year. I think it's important to know the players are awesome, but Will Hardy coaching that roster the way he did, that Utah team, I think we all expected them to be just dead in the water all season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they were very competitive in just about every single game. He did a phenomenal job. I can't wait to see what he's going to do now with John Collins in that starting 4 spot. That team reminds me of the Cavs a couple years ago when they just had a I think Markin was on that roster too, Andy, if I'm correct, where they were just so scrappy. They were just dogs. That's how I think this Utah team will be next year.
Yeah, Markkanen was on there, and during that time, it was just kind of a really weird time to be a Cavs fan because nothing great was happening. But I mean, it was nothing bad either. And you're right, they were dogs. They would like pick fights with the biggest teams in the conference, but they could never like really figure it out. But
right.
You're right, the Jazz, they're maybe starting to.
It's a little bit different though, because if Utah makes the playoffs as even like an 8 seed,
Yeah.
that's huge for a young core, because then it's
yeah.
okay, we're growing and we're building something.
That's right. Yeah, and so we'll do deep dives on different players. Scott and I have talked about it throughout the offseason, so stay tuned on YouTube. Lauri Markkanen,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a video on him this week, just about, how good can he be? Is he a one-hit wonder? We'll dive into that.
Yeah,
So stay tuned.
That will be juicy. Yeah, we have different things coming down the pipeline.
right.
YouTube, the tens of you that watch, thank you. Trevor did have video, over 1,000 views.
We're trying to build. We're trying to build. Trying to build.
We got to build this kingdom for
We gotta build.
This is for Mike Conley alone.
Yeah, help us out, guys. Send this to a friend or something.
Maybe we should
Yeah.
do a deep dive on Mike.